So, welcome everyone to your friendly introduction to sports in general as a normal person. So, I wanted to make this video in the first place because I always felt like sports had a really big positive impact in my life, even just as a normal person, not as a competing professional athlete or not even as a trainer or anything like this. Obviously, I'm not any of those things. So, sports in general, as a normal person, I would say, is supposed to be just physical activity that you do in order to better yourself as a person, better your mind, better your psyche, and better your physique as well, better your capabilities also, in exchange, obviously, for all the hard work that you do. So, my introduction to sports as a kid was almost like everyone else's story. It was just that, when I was a kid, I was given the freedom to pretty much explore the world for what it is. There was something about dynamism in general, something that's super dynamic and gives you adrenaline. Is something that's really amusing to me and something that gives me a lot of joy in my life. So as a kid, I always ended up doing something that included some sort of like speed or adrenaline. But also on the flip side, sports at the same time did feel like a chore as well. In general, I would say I was a pretty weak kid. Like I was always among like the weakest boys. I was always the one that like wasn't able to do a push-up, wasn't able to do a pull-up or anything like that. I think when I was 5 years old, my dad wanted me to do martial arts as a kid. This was something that I didn't really like the idea of at first because to me it seemed a bit, aggressive. It seemed like something that I don't really want to include myself in because I remember I was always so scared of like I might get paired up with like older guys at martial arts and I would just, get my butt kicked or something like that. And I always feared it in a sense. And it was just clear that I didn't like it too much. But I ended up doing it for 10 years anyway. One thing was for certain is that I didn't like sports in general. Like when it was a chore in my life, I didn't like that I was just like forced to do sports. And I wanted to quit martial arts for so long, but obviously, as a kid, I think you kind of have to go through this phase first to understand that, sports is not always about having fun. Sports is not always about just doing whatever you like. Sometimes you got to do the hard work in order for you to better yourself. But alongside that, you get a lot of experience to be around others, to socialize, how to behave yourself, in competitions and such. It is something that really piqued my interest also, like the competitive side of sports. But obviously martial arts was something that I was not interested in. So I always wondered what it would be like to be a competitive athlete in another sport. So after 10 years, when I was 15 years old, I stopped doing sports altogether. This is obviously when you graduate primary school in Eastern Europe. So basically in high school, I got really fat and I was a gamer back then and this was the first time when I genuinely felt ashamed of myself. This was a time when I felt like damn, I really should do something about this. This just doesn't feel right that I'm sitting around gaming and I wasn't eating crap. Like I didn't have a crappy diet or anything like that, but still, reality starts catching up to you whenever the situation becomes like that. Right around this time, so I would say like this was a year before COVID, like 2019 is when I saw a video of the famous Andrea La Rosa doing some planche push-ups on the beach, and I remember thinking to myself like damn, these planche push-ups, they really seem so simple. Like this is something that I could easily do, even though like I couldn't even do a single like normal push-up. I remember just like getting on the floor instantly and like trying this, and I was so instantly humbled. But obviously, as a 15-year-old kid, there is no way you're going to know in advance like what's physically difficult and what isn't. So naturally, I was very humbled to say the least. And this was a really big moment that my ego kind of had to drop and I had to, become serious about this. So first things first, I wanted to lose a lot of weight because at the time I think, the 76 kilos and 183 centimeters. So I knew that I had to lose a lot of weight. And I actually did something that's not recommended for everyone. I did a crash diet. So I lost a lot of weight. I think in 2 months, I lost somewhere around 15 kilos, which is actually crazy. But this is when I discovered the world of like calisthenics and all the beautiful exercises, because so far I've only seen one single clip of Andrea La Rosa. but I didn't know that this whole world existed around it. This is like, a largely a deviated direction from gymnastics, but basically the same thing, but a lot more free. Whatever, long story short, like I'm gonna pull up some images right here. Like in just a single year, I actually hit my best physique ever, which is still my best physique to this day. I was 17 years old at the time. I was really, really strong. I was able to do so many things, like 15 muscle ups in a row and like many one arm pull ups, front lever pull ups, all of these things, if you know any of these exercises. And then I decided that, like, no way, like, I was able to achieve this in just a year. Like, maybe I should go competitive or something, because this is really unique, I feel like. Yeah, I wanted to go competitive. This is when I had to, like, internalize, like, a really, really big lesson from this whole thing is that genetics matter a lot, especially if you want to be a competitive athlete. I was saying, whatever it is that you're trying to do, there's always a perfect genetic proposition for a person that they would have to just have in order for them to have the best chances of ever making it. And I just realized that I didn't have it. So obviously I don't want to whine about this, but like in general, I was a pretty weak kid. But of course, through hard work and perseverance, like, you can achieve a lot, sure, but you're never going to become like a world champion, or not even on a national level. So I just had to accept that. And this was like a really, really big, like, philosophical lesson as well, that like, you don't have to have this like super big ego. You shouldn't be thinking that you can just conquer the world because you had a little bit of success in your life. Because if you're looking at the bigger picture, just simply 1 year of sports is really not that much. And yeah, I just decided that, all right, I'll keep doing this sport. Obviously, I'm not earning like a single penny from this, and I spend a lot of time living this lifestyle. But in exchange for all that hard work, I would like to see some results that like actually make sense. But then something happened that really, really changed my perspective once again, and it really, really hit me. It was almost like a stab in the heart, because it was so painful to go through this. So when I was 18 years old, I moved out from my parents' home, and I instantly started working full time. And this is when I realized that like damn, like, the normal life sucks. Like, you are working from Monday to Friday. You're working from all the way from the morning all the way almost into the night, and like, including everything like the commute and like all the fulfillments you have to do inside, the home, like all the housework. It just takes up so much time that you don't even have time for yourself. And I remember, like, because I was someone who trained every single day, and this very quickly turned into only training 2 or 3 times per week. And obviously, as the frequency of the workouts decreased, the chances of getting an injury increased. I was training straddle Maltese, and I injured myself so hard that I couldn't even move my right arm for, I think, almost 6 months. I couldn't even move that. This was really like what I said, like a stab in the heart, because I lived this lifestyle for 2-3 years by this point, and it really, really hurt me deeply, inside my heart, that I just cannot train anymore, and I just felt useless. I felt like I'm nothing. I think it was 2 years later that I started training bodyweight exercises, gymnastics exercises, all of these things once again. And I felt like I should try a different approach this time. There is something special about sports. I would say that this is something that's like different for everyone, and this is something that's purely empirical. Like, empirical in a sense that like you can only really test your capabilities if you actually do them in real life. You cannot really base it off of someone's Instagram post or a reel that you just saw. Like, you actually have to go out and try that. But yeah, I decided to take a different approach this time. So as a normal person, I would say one big lesson is that you shouldn't always, strive to become the best. If you are someone, especially who doesn't even have any like a relation to sports in general, if you work as a finance guy, like, you shouldn't be trying to become a world champion athlete unless you have the genetics, like you are actually that like 1 in 10 million kind of person. Then yeah, sure, go for it. But otherwise, I would say, like, whenever you see someone that's successful, this person shouldn't be your only single exhibit. Like, you should also look at the thousands or perhaps millions of people that failed doing the same thing, because I think also the other side has very valuable information for you. And also, sports as a normal person is, as I said before, is just not supposed to feel like a chore, Like, sports should be something that's something that keeps you occupied, something that gets you up every day, and it's something that you look forward to, If it is actually something that gets you up and gets you going and keeps you motivated, obviously outside of motivation, you have to have discipline as well to push through the hard days. But if it is something that you look forward to, you are exactly on the right path. But there's a big lesson in this point as well, because when you actually start getting a lot of excitement from whatever sport you're doing, you start feeling like this is a part of you now. It was really the lockdown, that everyone started feeling like everyone should just lock in, get rich, be beautiful, be strong, be rich, and be smart. And obviously, a lot of things come with this. So a lot of people start, reading books. A lot of people start going to the gym. A lot of people start running regularly. A lot of people start eating clean. So this identity problem is only really a problem because this ends up infiltrating your personal life as well. And this is obviously something that I also experienced myself. For example, when I was really, really into sports and I was at my best physique ever, I just felt like this is all I want to do. This is the only type of person that I want to socialize with. I don't want to eat any more sweets. So, I have the situation where I have to tell my mom that I don't want to eat sweets and cookies anymore and none of those things. And it just, it broke my heart every single time when I had to tell her that I just don't want to eat these things, because this is really not normal for you to live like almost a fanatic. So obviously, to give you something helpful, what helped me is obviously keeping a healthy balance. Because if you live like a fanatic, you're going to find that you're only going to be able to keep it up for so long, because you always end up feeling the burden. You always end up feeling the backlash from it. Like you're probably going to encounter a lot of mental health issues that is ultimately caused by all of those things that we just mentioned before. You're going to notice that socializing is going to become increasingly difficult because you're going to become a little bit unrelatable as a person. People are not going to find it easy to relate to you because you're doing let's just be honest, you're doing pretty good things, but you might be taking it a bit too far where you don't really participate in other parts of life. And obviously, I'm not talking about going to parties. I'm not talking about participating in stupid things. I'm just talking about going for a walk, hanging out with friends, going to the movies, doing stuff, right? And this brings us to the last point of the day, which is exactly what I just mentioned. I don't know, I might be a victim of this right now. Like, we have officially reached an era of social media as a whole and almost the entire world where everything has become so crazy that the cool thing now is to tell everyone to be normal. God damn, like this is the name of the channel. So yeah, but obviously the idea from me is not that I want to virtue signal that being normal is cooler or whatever. But I really feel like I always live my life like this. I always felt like I was never gifted at anything. I was never gifted genetically. I was not like a world champion at something. And I always felt like, of course, there were a lot of things in my life where I have become really good. But of course, I never became the best in the world at anything. So I just had to let go of this idea that I'm some special human and just realize that I'm just like everyone else. But alongside being normal, I do think that even as a normal person, you can do so many amazing things in life that I just think it's actually worth it to participate in this kind of thinking. With that, I'm done with yapping and I'm just going to train, and you're going to get to see what a normal person's training looks like. So let's go. That you know like me, on my arms I am empty, like a mirage, like a So that was my very normal workout from home today. And I really hope you enjoyed it. And I really hope that you also got some value from the speech before with all of the yapping I just did. I really hope I opened your eyes up in some way and perhaps change your trajectory for the better. If not, that's all fine. I try my best. Or maybe my advice is crap, I don't know. But that was it, and I'll see you in the next one.